Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Hayden with Hill Pursuit, and this is episode 70 of the show. Believe it or not, we have finally hit episode 70. It's pretty exciting. Um, we have another little guest today. Unfortunately, Mitch couldn't join me, a little busy tonight. So, you guys know him well. Coach Kenny, one of our nutrition coaches, joined me tonight. We had a great conversation about a few different things. We didn't really even try this, but we went down the rabbit hole of whether or not an athlete should care about their weight, regardless of their sport and season. Should an athlete care about their weight? We kind of have that discussion for quite a bit, actually, and the importance of a performance outcome versus a number on a scale and any and everything in between. Quick athlete shout out. One of my athletes absolutely destroyed an FTP, so listen along for that shout. And kind of just the concept of athletes having sometimes what we refer to as like a blind faith in programming. So we talk about that concept a little bit, kind of just like trusting the process. The day-to-day grind can get really boring, really tedious, right? But seeing yourself kind of crossing that finish line in months is really, really important. So we speak to that point of trusting that process for quite some time. But athletes are definitely built in the off season. We emphasize that, talk about those key elements over time, and then lastly, we kind of close it out with a little bro talk, a little discussion on cold water immersion, the cold plunge, super popular today. Is it a fad? Is it real? Is there any real science behind it? So we kind of dive into that, and I know you're probably thinking about it because you've probably seen it in about 100 different places. Is the cold plunge a real thing? I started it myself. Is it a real thing? Is it bro science or is it real science? So we kind of dive into that a little bit, and um, we also kind of speak to what Coach Kenny is doing with his nutrition short clips. That the same that Coach Ashley will be doing once we get a formal introduction podcast episode for her. She will be doing the same. We're really, really excited about that collaborative effort with our new nutrition coaches. So this is episode 70, and if you're following along, thank you for doing so. You can find us anywhere, Facebook, Instagram. We're on YouTube, all at Hill Pursuit. So just search for Hill Pursuit. You'll find us everywhere. If you need to reach out to us, email hillpursuit@gmail.com. Find us, comment, check out the website, hillpursuit.com, the blog, all other podcast episodes, YouTube clips. The podcast is on Spotify, Podbean, Google, Apple. All right. So if you are following and you've been following, thank you for doing that. Please continue to do so. Share, like, subscribe to all of the things, and we really appreciate any support that we get. So thank you for doing that. I think that's all I have for right now. This is episode 70 of the Hill Pursuit podcast. Enjoy. All right, man. What's up? How we doing?
Doing good, doing good. Happy Tuesday.
Yeah. I'm about to say long time no see, but it's just becoming like a regular occurrence now. You're just like on the show. You're just a part of the show now, man. You're just a part of the show.
I kind of passively aggressively forced my way into this.
Yeah. No, but yeah, little shout to Mitch. Mitch has just been super busy. So yeah, thanks to you for filling in, and maybe it will be something more permanent anyway. So we'll just have
Yeah.
you join whenever you can. But yeah, how are things, dude?
Good. Can't complain. Busy week. Nutrition stuff has been going well. Train's been going well. Over here in California, they have a what's called a ski week every single year, which is like a early spring break for all the kids. So I had a couple of people out of town last week, but back to business as usual and back to being busy.
Yeah, nice, dude. So what does what do you mean when you say busy? Like, what's your day consist of? Honest question, not like a not like a softball question for the show. Honest question. What does your day consist of?
So just work wise, typically I do normally what's called like a split shift. So, I mean, anybody that knows a personal trainer, you work when other people can't.
Yeah.
So basically any time in the morning and late evening, most of the time. So just to give you a little rundown for me, I wake up either at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning every single day. First client is normally either at 5 or 6, and then go from 5 or 6 till about 10 or 11. Get like a 2 to 4 hour break, and then probably train 2 to 4 other people in the evening.
Yeah. So you're just grinding.
Oh yeah, but I love my
Yeah.
job. Man. It's easy, get to hang out with my clients for the most part, and I mean, most of them I would even consider friends now. With some of them, I've been training them for like 3 or 4 years, so it's not it doesn't feel like work, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's when you know you made it, man. And when you're
Yeah.
getting and it doesn't feel like work for
Oh, I
sure.
know. Well, dude, that's why I chose the major that I chose. I was like, wait a second. I was like, I train people and show people how to do deadlifts and pull-ups for a living, and it's
Yeah.
freaking wild.
I know, dude. Um, so how have you been feeling? Are following the pull up thing? Anything lingering? Anything you have to like get formally checked out? I don't know if we technically followed up on that.
No, I mean, for the most part now, I mean, it's been what I did December 10th. Body is 100%. I guess pretty much I've been focusing solely on strength stuff, minimal cardio, just because that's pretty much all I did for like 7, 8 months. And
Sure.
one other little fun fact for you too. So December 10th, I weighed 144, 145 pounds, and today I weighed 186.7 pounds.
Oh, I was gonna say 75. Wow, 186.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's kind of wild. Didn't really expect that number. I haven't been like eating the whole kitchen, nothing crazy. I haven't been tracking, so I have absolutely no idea how much food I'm eating currently. But I out 40 pounds in about what's that? Almost 3 months.
So I absolutely love this. I love that topic. We kind of just backed into that. Like we didn't. I'm not saying we have to do a full cast on this topic, but I absolutely love talking about like how much an athlete weighs and whether or not that's important. You know, different times of the season based on goals and stuff. Dude, it's such a hot topic with people who you know care about what they weigh or associate some positive feeling with a certain number or maybe a negative feeling with another number. So hearing you say, oh, this is what I weighed 3 or 4 months ago, and I didn't know until today that I weighed this much more. Like, dude, who cares? I kind of feel like who freaking cares, because you're doing what you want to do. You're exercising. It's not like you're eating ho hos and Twinkies all day long. So it's you, you know. As a side note, we have this full nutrition expert short series that we're starting on YouTube, ironically, but that you're kind of leading the way on with our other nutrition expert. But it's not like you're eating garbage food and you're eating to fuel your life,
Mhm.
and I'm just like a huge proponent of that. I think the scale matters to some degree. Of course, you have to be healthy, but however, just your feeling of overall health is equally, if not more important than any number on a scale. Not to mention, if you're an athlete, your performance is more of a metric to me than a number. I don't know. What do you got on that?
100%, man. I mean, like, I for my current goal, obviously it's strength based now. I really don't care what the number says on the scale because, I mean, unless I were to go out and try and compete in powerlifting or something else, then
Yeah.
obviously you have to take class. But kind of to touch on one thing that you briefly spoke about, which was, depending on what type of season you're in, whether I know, mostly, triathlon or endurance people, you want a good body weight to strength ratio and all those things too. But like, you do need to give your body a break, give yourself some time to rebound. Where, I mean, if you put yourself in a caloric surplus and you're in like I guess you could say like a off season, you're focusing more on like your strength and power or whatever. You probably want to be in a surplus. I mean, you do want to
Yeah.
gain some, like you want to try and put on some tissue. Like if you weigh 160 pounds and say you're, I don't know, 25% body fat, right? I would much rather you be 155 pounds or only lose 10 pounds, let's say, but then you were able to maintain a good body composition because,
Yeah.
like you brought up about the scale too, it's a super easy metric for a lot of people to use. But the problem is that it doesn't reflect, well, first off, your performance, and second, how much lean tissue you lost or gained. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that focus more on your performance outcomes, focus more on how your strength is going up, because normally most of the time, I mean, there isn't like a direct association with strength gains and the amount of lean tissue that you're putting on. But if you are trending and your numbers are going up, do realize that you might be putting on muscle and you might want to stick with what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, in the off season, you know, when you're dropping excessive, speaking to the triathlete example or just endurance athlete, you're dropping the volume significantly.
Yep.
You're not training 15 hours a week anymore. You might be training like 8 or 9, maybe 10, maybe 6 or 7, in the off season. And some of that is really heavy lifting. And even if you don't, change the amount you're eating, right? You fall into what you referred to as a surplus because you're not expending as much, but keep the quality of your food, a healthy quality. And, I feel like it's okay to gain a little bit. And you probably have some better insight on this, but I mean, you're going to gain some weight in the off season. And, I ran this race just this past weekend, just a little 10-mile, like little tester, which was really fun. And I'm probably about 10 pounds heavier than my marathon in September. Um, I feel completely fine. I don't now. Can I go run that marathon at the same exact pace right now? No, but I'm not in a heavy marathon block. And I just got off of a few months of heavy lifting, and I'm just now transitioning to what I would say is like an in season. I would say I'm probably like preseason right now for maybe another couple weeks, and then into like a 4 or 5 month in season. It's just not year round. You just can't hold the intensity and the volume year round. Your body can't stay at 145 year round. I mean, what a great example.
I was dying.
What a great example, though. I mean, in strength to, or sorry, like strength to mass or power to mass sports, you know, probably triathlon more like power to mass. You're looking at like watt per kg on the bike, right? So, I mean, yeah, it matters, but it doesn't. You're not doing yourself a favor if you're cutting weight with, garbage bags and wetsuits, like you're wrestling in, what 2005. You're not doing yourself any favors if you're trying to cut weight like that. I mean, you're just gonna completely dehydrate yourself. And you're gonna have no fuel for performance whatsoever. So, um, yeah, I guess that's just a long way around saying, you know, measure your performance metrics. Measure your performance metrics. Those are way more important than a number on a scale, because you're right. You gain weight, a certain percentage of that pound, that single pound that you gain is going to be lean tissue, and another percentage of that weight, that pound you gain, is going to be fat. That's likely with every pound. Now, like I said, you probably have a little bit more understanding of that, but you know, it's hard. It's hard mentally for some people, man. And you see it all the time, everywhere. People just being too worried about the number. So, anyways, I know you didn't intentionally try to go down that rabbit hole, but I'm glad you shared that, because that's definitely relevant, and that's a good one to a good start to like a key point to kind of touch on. Real quick before we dive into anything else, I wanted to mention um, a couple different things. So first of all, with Hill Pursuit, we just started, and you joined it, which is great. So I want people to know we just started an active athlete like Facebook group. So if you are an active athlete listening, just find the group, join it. You have to request to join. We'll put you in there. We just started it, so there's really only a handful of people in there now, but just a nice little community for people to kind of come together, ask questions, learn about what's going on, communicate, lean on one another, whatever the case may be. So do that if you are an active hill pursuit athlete. That goes for any athlete that I have in Victory Multisport as well. I wanted to speak to Victory Multisport. This is really sweet. I don't know if we even told you this, but the dates, I don't know if this is 100% live yet, but it's coming. Victory is going to be having a team triathlon camp on the first week of June out where we're at in Western PA. So if you're listening and you're in the area, it's going to be somewhere around Moraine State Park. We'll be in the Cranberry area, probably in the outdoor pool in North Park, I believe. Some spaces out there, maybe Cranberry Y, whatever. In that general vicinity, we're going to have a team triathlon camp on a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, culminating in, a Sunday get together, beverages, stories, chatting with coaches and new friends, new athletes, whatever. So if that interests you, just keep your eyes open, because I'll post that info once it's finalized, I guess. And then I really only had one other thing I wanted to touch on before we dive into anything else, but had an athlete today. So his name's Sky. I'm giving you a shout out, Sky. He repeated a functional threshold power test on the bike. 8, 10 weeks, whatever the timing was, his fitness was improving. So we did the test again. And that's how you should do it. Do you do it every month? Absolutely not. That's not enough time to really gain enough fitness, right? But his fitness was improving. So we reassessed his FTP on the bike, and it jumped up just exponentially. It was awesome to see that. I know the numbers, Scott. You know the numbers. It went up pretty good, and it was just awesome to see, because he's putting in lots of really hard work. Everybody's dealing with like tiny little nagging injuries at different points of the season. He's been dealing with a couple tiny ones. Still just crushed it and improved his fitness big time. So big shout out to Sky, and it's just a testament to I guess kind of what we wanted to dive into, is just like trusting the process over like the long haul,
Yeah.
and this dude has just been absolutely crushing workouts, and it's been months, and we revisit, a test like this, and to see this, I saw the numbers, and I didn't say, hey, what's your body weight? What do you weigh? The dude improved his performance, period.
Well,
So it was just awesome to see. And I think it's just a great example of just trusting the process, having a little bit of, what you might call like blind faith. And, in the mornings you're waking up at 4 o'clock and you're getting on the bike for an hour and you're just holding the zone 2 intensity. It might be the most boring thing in the world, but you got to see past just that.
small things add up.
Yeah, you got to see. Yeah, like what is the saying? Like many small penny make big dollar or something like that. Like you got to see past that blank wall at 4 a.m. when you're just riding at a zone 2 pace. I mean, you got to see the finish line of that race that you're planning for in 4 months, 5 months, and he's just crushing it. Just a great example of that. So I wanted to give him a shout.
I was actually going to briefly talk about two other things too, and I think it's kind of hilarious that we're talking about both these topics. So first thing was I had a body composition change that I literally just posted today.
Oh, really?
One of my clients that he finally, I mean, he's been working out with me now for about 6 or 7 months, and he finally was ready to take his nutrition seriously. Some people, especially in the Bay Area, do have, I guess you could say, some dietary restrictions. A lot of vegetarians, vegans, and whatever else. So we worked around his meal plan. Dude, it just goes to show the guy lost 4 pounds of fat and gained 4 pounds of muscle and lost 2.1 pounds of fat in 33 days. Just from following a higher protein diet, cleaning up his food, and resistance training. The second thing that I was going to say is that I had another client of mine who he told me he wanted to be able to do a pull-up for the first time. And
dude, I saw that one.
I think I'm kind of qualified to help people with
Pull-up
pull-ups.
king.
So he started with 66 pounds of assistance from a machine, wasn't able to do more than 5. And then fast forward 5 months, he trusted the process, and now he was able to do about 3 clean-ish reps with 20 pounds of extra load.
Yeah.
So nothing crazy, man. Just regular old strength training, and you just got to trust it. That's all you got to do. I mean, like, I know that we were just talking about athletes too, but I mean, athletes are built in the off season, right? You're not going to get better. I mean, you might be able to get better during like a race prep, leading into a race if you do everything correctly, but like where you build speed, where you build like extra stamina, where you build power, like all those things happen when you're in like the best state, where you're able to train and eat more calories because you're not worried about your weight like most of these triathlon people are. And that's when you're actually going to get better. Not when you're, working out, like you said, like 16 hours a week. You're building yourself into a prep, obviously, and you're going to be in better shape for it. But like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that extra lean tissue that you're going to put on during the off season is going to be the thing that's going to carry you to the finish line when you're actually in season too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what a great line. Athletes are built in the off season. I mean, it's so much truth to that. And it's hard, I think it's hard because I think the world we live in, right? We live in a fallen world. So the world we live in, people just like right here, right now, they just want everything.
Yep.
Doesn't even matter what it is. They want everything right here, right now. You start with a coach, you want that 5K under 20 minutes, boom, immediately. You want to be able to run a sub 3 or a sub 4, whatever your goal is, marathon, boom, immediately. But like this stuff takes time, and
Which, sorry, I was just gonna say, man, which is crazy because, like, dude, I live in the Bay Area with some of the smartest, like, most successful people on the planet, and these people have PhDs and tons of formal education, just like you, dude. How hard did you have to freaking work to get your or write your dissertation, defend it, and all those things? You had to work so many years and hours or whatever. And I'm like, dude, take all that education, all that crap that you had to do when you were in school, and apply that to this, and you'll be a freaking superstar.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
that's all.
it's just, oh, man, it's just so much easier said than done. And people just get hung up, and the truth, we've all seen the joke or the meme where like the kid goes to the gym and like does a push up and then pulls his shirt up and is like looking to see if he has abs already. It's like, that's what people want though. That's what they want. They want to do a rep. They want to do a set. They want to put in an hour, and then they go home and it's like, how do I measure what I did today? How do I measure the improvement I made? And you just can't. It doesn't happen in a day. Like you might have that client come in and then one day they eventually get a pull-up. They do a pull-up eventually, right? That's measurable. But aside from that type of victory, man, you don't see your body change. You don't see your aesthetics change. You don't see yourself putting lean mass on. I mean, you're looking at what, 8 to 12 weeks before you would notice something on yourself, maybe, if it's like dialed in.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that's funny you say the whole not to like move on, I guess. It's funny you reference like my dissertation, because I was somewhat indirectly going to talk about that a little bit. So we can continue with this, or I was just going to talk a little bit about the cold plunging that I've been doing. What do you think about cold plunging, or do you want to keep talking about body comp?
I mean, I think we kind of summarized body composition. I mean, it's not for anybody that does listen. I mean, if, like we just said too, you're not going to notice day-to-day changes. But what I would say for most people, and a lot of people might know this, just make sure that whenever you start something that you're like taking seriously, whether that's, your nutrition or exercise or whatever, take a picture of yourself when you first start, right? Because like you won't notice day by day changes. Like take a picture of yourself and then look at yourself 6 months later. That's going to be, if that's what you have to do to keep yourself motivated, do it. Like I summarize all that. That's what I would say. But what do I think of cold plunges? They suck, but they're great.
Yeah. So the reason I was just going to bring it up, first of all, I have to give credit where it's due. So first of all, I haven't done a cold plunge until the past like 2 weeks since I was in high school, to be
Mm.
honest. Um, I I studied it in my doc program for like 3 years because I ultimately like my dissertation was on cold water immersion. So I became somewhat of a content expert, I guess you could say, in terms of like cold water immersion. But I never had any intention of kind of getting back into it or ever like implementing it until 2 or 3 weeks ago. My brother-in-law, so there's the credit. I have to give him credit. My brother-in-law, huge Joe Rogan guy, and of course Rogan had somebody on recently and just talking about cold plunge. And for the most part, people talk about cold plunge and they're like, oh, yeah, it's super hard. That's why I do it. And, that's fine. Whatever. It's hard. So, of course, you put your body through something hard. That in itself could be a victory and you're gaining something from that. Right.
Yeah.
But so he took interest in it. He started like researching it a little bit. And the way that it's kind of implemented now is just kind of almost like turned into this massive fad that people don't really understand, but they know it's healthy. They know there's some positive outcomes with it, so they just kind of do it. Um, but anyway, I was out there by his house, and I just hopped in after a workout. I don't even think it was that cold. I think it was like 50, which isn't really that cold at all. I mean, it's cold. It's cold.
Kind of cold.
It's cold, but well,
California,
dude,
man. I'm in California. 50's cold.
okay, well, dude, I got in not yesterday. The other day I got in, it was like 31 degrees. I had to break the ice off. Anyway, whatever. It was like 50 the first time I got in. And I was like, wow, this is intense. This is really hard to sit here and not shiver. And you're shivering. And now we're talking about targeting specific like visceral fat that surrounds organs. So now we're talking about pretty serious like health outcomes here that are very positive. Um, but so I'm shivering and I'm like, oh man, I haven't like experienced this in forever. This is not super expensive to kind of get into. I got home from that weekend, bought 100-gallon tank, filled it up. I have a thermometer in it for less than $100. So um, I've just been hopping in whenever I can. Like this morning, I worked out at home, so I hopped in right after. When I work out, like when I swim and then I lift or something, I can't really hop in right after because I'm already out of the house. So I'll just hop in for a couple minutes later in the day. I love it. I absolutely love it. Like it's really hard to get in sometimes, but your acute level of alertness is just like super
In
intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, super intense. So your initial like mental acuity is improved. Of course, your at the very least, this is what I said to somebody else the other day because they asked like what are the benefits? I said, well, first of all, at the very least, you're more comfortable in the cold. Period. If you put
True.
yourself in the cold, you become more comfortable in the cold. So at the very least, there's no other benefit. The benefit there's one. You get a little bit more comfortable in the cold. But after, so I read this recently. After endurance focused sessions, cold water reduces inflammation, reduces soreness, similar to like similar effects or benefits of like deep tissue massaging, I guess.
Mm.
It heals your joints a little bit faster. If it was like a high impact type of session, running miles and miles, your ankles, your knees, your hips might feel a little bit better, acutely. Um, and then if you're training more like strength power, so more like resistance training or lifting, something like, and I have no experience with this, so I can't really talk about it, but I did read that something like that, um, a cold air exposure like cryotherapy would be more beneficial in terms of recovery. And I don't know those mechanisms or anything, but anyway, it's been super, popular lately. Um, I've kind of been in the world, but not since like 10 years ago when I was in my doc program. So I'm kind of back in the world and I'm really enjoying it. And there's something to be said also to the mental aspect. A lot of people, put yourself in some uncomfortable position, get more comfortable with that. Sure, that's great, even if there are no other physiological benefits. But I do like it. I'm looking forward to seeing how things feel more long term. It's only been a few weeks, but I didn't know if you had any takes on it because it is super hot lately, right? No pun intended. It is
Yeah.
super hot lately.
No, I do think it's funny that it is kind of making a little comeback too. And like you said too, it's kind of like one of those new fads. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
egg white, eat egg whites instead of whole eggs, or oh, coconut oil is the next new thing, or MCT oil, blah blah blah. Like oh, beetroot powder. It's all like the same little spin off thing of something great that's been around forever. That you know for whatever reason, I mean, dude, Joe Rogan said something, and freaking 10 million dudes do it the next day, right?
exactly.
Yeah, which was awesome. I mean, I'm not obviously
Yeah.
saying anything cold plunges. I mean, I think the research is out there, and you already brought up obviously some pretty good benefits from it. I just wanted to touch on two things. So I know the visceral fat, which in case people don't know what visceral fat is, that's the fat that surrounds your organs. That's the fat that you do not want, and I know that it somehow targets it. I don't know exactly how that works either. So
It's
um,
shivering as a mechanism starts targeting brown fat.
yeah,
So
it's actually funny that you mentioned that. I think I actually heard that at some speaker at the ACSM conference. Actually,
really,
yeah, I was briefly talking about that. But one other thing too with the hypertrophy aspect for cold plunges, I think from what I've read, it's you're supposed to do it 3 to 4 hours post resistance training because
hmm,
the inflammation is good for your muscle. In case a lot of people don't realize that, it does. The inflammation is supposed to be set in place just because inflammation in your muscle will eventually, you need the
repair.
inflammation on a build hype or if you want to try and build muscle later. So that you don't want to limit that while dumping yourself into like a cold immersion tank.
Sure, sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. So, yeah, you got to remember that's a really good point. You got to remember you're breaking the stuff down that you want to
Yeah.
ultimately repair, right, in your training session. So, you don't want to completely eliminate that inflammation, but to the degree of something like a delayed onset muscle soreness, it'll reduce the likelihood of excessive fatigue or excessive soreness, I guess. But um, and I think there was one other. It does have a little bit of and again acute. I'm not sure about chronic. It does have a little bit of an acute improvement in immune function.
I've
And
heard
this
that
is
actually
you heard that?
allergies. Yeah. Allergies and
Yep.
heard that it helps with asthma as well.
Mm,
Once again, I would have to do more research, but I was just gonna say switching to the opposite side. I've been playing around with sauna like
nice,
every day now.
nice, dude. I could go down a rabbit hole with sauna too. I'm a believe it or not. I actually have been reading some stuff about going cold, hot
Mm-hmm.
in terms of both water and air in either scenario. So, you know, cold air to hot air, cold air to hot water, cold water to hot air, cold water to hot water. It's crazy, like how all the different things, the different combinations of the extreme environmental exposures that if you just do for a little bit. So this cold water immersion, somewhere between 10 and 12 minutes per week, and you're expected to see these benefits per week. That's 2 minutes a day for 6 days,
It's nothing.
right? Like who doesn't have that time?
I,
Now time is one thing. Time is one thing, but who doesn't have the mental fortitude or the willingness to try it? That's different, right? $100, 2 minutes a day, easy.
it's
So
literally the same thing with sauna too. I mean, obviously it's a little bit less available to people than a cold plunge, but
yeah.
same thing with sauna. It's like what you need to sit in a sauna for anywhere between. It's like you have to have a slight belly sweat, and then you got to sit in it for like another 10 minutes or something to release all the heat shock proteins, and you can obviously work through like more range of motion and
Yeah.
everything too. And it can even I know sauna's been proven to what help with cardiovascular function and like
Oh,
uh,
absolutely. Blood volume,
blood
plasma.
volume. yeah, decreases all comorbidities. Like I think they were actually comparing sauna's health benefits to exercises, and like you literally can't take a pill for it.
Yeah.
Like it reduces everything. What I will say to anybody, especially young people out there too, there is a reason why older like demographics of people tend to favor the sauna, which is hilarious. Like the kids that are 20 should be doing what the 70-year-olds are doing. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like the guys that tell you, "Oh, don't lift heavy because you're gonna be regretting it when you get older." It's the same dudes that are going and sitting in the sauna.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen to the old timers.
Yeah, man, they've been around the gym longer than you. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Yeah, there's a reason why
Yeah.
they do
Yeah, dude. I don't have any access to sauna out here, but it's something I would love to have eventually. Man, we could continue this conversation and talk about sauna too. But um, yeah, I mean, I'm all about environmental stuff,
Same.
physiology specifically. I mean, that was essentially what it wasn't my entire, right? But that's where I chose to kind of focus my area of study during my doc program was essentially environmental physiology, which I'm just like, I love it. I love like just seeing what happens in weird scenarios and high humid, high heat, low heat, cold, water, air. I love all of it. It's just so many benefits from just tiny, tiny little exposures, but to very, very extreme hypoxic as well. Man, we could talk about that one for hours probably. But just tiny little exposures, but very, very extreme environments. Um, and think about that in terms of exercise too. That's really what we're doing with exercise and training
Yeah.
within a 30-minute session, or even if it's an hour session, you might only accumulate like 20 minutes at super high intensities, or maybe not at all, right? But that exposure to the extreme on one end or the other, that's what's going to elicit adaptation. Okay. Like it's the same thing with exercise as it is what we would call quote environment. You create these hard environments with your training too, the way that you're training, the intensity, the focus of your training, the consistency of your training. You're creating this new environment. So, I mean, it's exercise and then these environmental exposures. They just have so many similarities. That's why I kind of fell in love with environmental physiology, 10 or so years ago. I absolutely love it.
Go back, man.
I know it's
So,
weird to say. It's weird to say. Let me think. 2023. Okay, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago. All right, 10 years.
all right,
Chill,
all right.
chill with that.
I was just feeling all nostalgic when you said the hypoxic stuff with
Yeah,
the chain. Like
yeah,
oh god, I do not miss that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Chill with the 10 years. I got ahead of myself. 8 to 9. We'll stick with that.
Hey man,
But
you're the one who's dating yourself, not me.
oh man, something happened in one of my classes the other day. I was like, man, you guys weren't even born for this. I was talking about something and I couldn't even believe it. Like it's happening, right? I'm getting older, but my students are the same age every single year. It's really strange.
Yeah, dude. Well, yeah. I mean, just dude, I mean, you were my oh yeah. I mean, like the same thing, bro. Believe me, I know. I mean, like, dude,
Yeah,
I'm 29
yeah,
now. Lies, I get it.
yeah. Weird. So real quick, just a few minutes left, but um, you are starting along with our other nutrition expert and coach. You're starting a little like short nutrition series, like 90 seconds to 2 minute little tiny clips. If you're listening and following along, we posted our first one yesterday, and we'll continue to post them at least once a week, somewhere in there, once maybe twice a week. Just tiny little clips, some quick nutrition tips or information. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah. So the short videos are basically just summaries of, I guess you could say, more like hot topics within like the nutrition side of things. Approach to macros, pre and during race nutrition. I think I did one on hydration. Just basically, I summarized very, I guess you could say, in-depth topics in about 90 seconds to 2 minutes, and then I'm going to be making some, I guess you could say, more in-depth, like longer videos, really breaking down like how carbohydrates impact performance, like how hydration impacts performance, like all these things. Something I'll basically try and give tips where, you could take the general or like average person, they could apply these things as well. But yeah, I just want to give very short, no clickbait, information on, because I mean, I think that what is the saying with the internet? It's like for every one truth, there's like 6 or 7 lies. I just want to put out good content that actually works, that, people can actually use and not just waste your money doing something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's what's really cool about those videos is that um, our other nutrition coach, Ashley, will also be kind of hopping on board and creating her own little series. And eventually we're actually going to bring both you, Kenny, and Coach Ashley as well, probably onto the same podcast, answer some questions, kind of just talk a little bit about any and everything related to some of these topics that you just kind of alluded to: hydration, pre-race, intra-race, all this, carb loading, whatever the hot topic is. And kind of along those lines, if you're listening and you have a question about anything, or you have a topic that you want to hear more of, let us know. Comment, find us on the socials, at Hill Pursuit, Facebook, Instagram. Send us an email, hillpursuit@gmail.com. If you have any questions or, topics that you want to hear, either just on the podcast or in the nutrition shorts, let us know. And we'll gladly do that. Real quick, we got a minute. Where can people reach out to you, Ken? I know we've done this 100 times, but what's your email? Where can they find you?
Progressive Strength 12@gmail.com, and Progressive Strength Project is my Instagram, as well as my Google business page and my Yelp page.
Cool. So definitely reach out to Ken if you have any questions. Ken, thanks for coming on, man. This is always fun. We didn't really try it, but I think we went down some good lines, some good discussion today. So again, find us wherever you can, all the socials, Facebook, Instagram. We're on YouTube. The cast now airs on Spotify, Podbean, Google, Apple. Find all of it. All right. This was episode 70 of the Hill Pursuit podcast.